with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico and to be a symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Thank you, everyone. First item is approval of this evening's agenda, and I would move that we approve this evening's agenda and call for a second.
I'll second.
I heard 2 seconds. I'll give that to Councilor Abraham. Motion and second to approve.
As far as I would like to make a motion to add a public comment section following consent agenda so that we can hear from the public in 2 places, once before discussion and action, and then once down in discussion.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second to add a public discussion item to our agenda in between sections 2 and 3. How do you vote, Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
Let's see. Councilor Holly
Aye.
and Councilor Jaramillo.
Aye.
I guess we can have a discussion item in between 2 and 3.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, you need to vote.
I as well.
Thank you.
Thought I was agreeing, but anyway. So we have an agenda. We have an added item on there. I would like to ask someone, Mr. Torres, if you could have someone get another list so that people wanting to comment on things can comment there. We now have 2 public comments. So we've got 2 places for people to talk tonight. If you wish to sign up for the first public comment, then we will have 2 sign-up sheets. If you want to talk at both, you may. The first item on our agenda then is the consent agenda, and I would ask for a motion.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I move we take each of these items separately this evening. I had comments to make on all but one.
So your motion is to break the consent agenda into individual items A through F.
That's correct.
Do I hear a second? I will second. Councilor Jaramillo, how would you vote?
Nay.
And Councilor Holly, how would you vote?
Aye.
And Councilor Abraham?
Nay.
I vote aye as well. The motion to break the consent agenda into pieces fails for lack of a majority. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? I will move to approve the consent agenda. Do I hear a second? The approval of the consent agenda fails for lack of a second. That's a first. Next item on the agenda is public comment. If those of you who have signed up wish to speak at this time, you may. I don't know which list is which, so we'll just go with what we've got.
Just again, the purpose of asking for the public comment in this part is so that you could speak before the action items listed in section 3. So sometimes I just like to hear opinions before action is taken by council. So that was my purpose of asking this evening for that section.
Well, we only have one list because I don't know if we had time for other folks to sign up. So do we want to have 2 public comment sessions and call the same folks?
Or just invite whoever might want to speak up to the mic. Have them
Well,
state their name.
We do have to record who is speaking so that we can have that list.
excuse me, I'm just looking at the sign-in sheet. There are a couple people that did want to speak about the budget, and we do have that public meeting topic to speak
Right.
to the budget, so maybe hold those until then.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
Is this comment just on the discussion items under section 3, or is this general comments?
I think that is the counselor's purview. Counselor Harmio?
I just made the motion to add a public comment section after item 2, but before item 3, so that the public could have the opportunity to give us their feedback before we take action on the items in 3. So I would say it could be general comment would be fine. So yeah, that might be the best, because in looking at this, as Councilor Holly pointed out, the public, well, no, there is public comment regarding general matters in item 4 as well. So either place would be fine.
Is there anybody that wants to speak before me?
Just on this section 3, I did sign the sheet for the general public comment and donated my minutes to Mr. Powers. But regarding the audit that you're going to just, Karen Kaiser is my name for the record. You're going to talk about the audit tonight. And with no disrespect to you, Juan, it always is listed clerk treasurer. It falls to your big shoulders. But it's unacceptable that the town of Edgewood cannot have an unqualified audit without findings. This is 6 consecutive bad audits in a row. You have one of the top auditors in the state of New Mexico seated right there in Councilor Jaramillo, yet she's never on the exit committee. You don't ask for her help. It would be free and brilliant, but I'm an accountant. I'm nowhere near an auditor to the level of Councilor Jaramillo, but it embarrasses me to see our town be financially out of balance like that. Under Mayor Hill, I looked up the audits, not a finding, and always an unqualified audit, which is what every town should be capable of achieving. You know, maybe 1 or 2 findings, but you correct your course the 2nd year, or worst case by the 3rd year. Under this administration, you've had a bad audit 6 years in a row, and instead of getting better, it gets worse, and you have to do better. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Powers, I think the floor is yours for right now. Are you going to use up all of the time that you have been donated?
Probably not. I don't know how much time there is, but I probably need about 6 minutes, maybe 8.
Go ahead.
Well, first I want to say I'm really thinking about this today. I'm really grateful to have lived a life of freedom and opportunity in America, which flows from the principles of a representative democracy, that elected representatives serve the will of the people. Without these principles, we'd just be another third world country where politicians would use their office to achieve their personal agendas, ignoring the will of the people that they're supposed to represent. Unfortunately, that's kind of what's happened in Edgewood. Along with our former mayor, Councilors Abrams and Holly have hijacked our town government and desecrated the principles of representative democracy. Rather than listen to the people and their collective wisdom as to how they want to live, how they want to vote, how they want their tax money spent, you've directly opposed the will of the public at nearly every turn, sometimes using the people's own money to do it. When the people of Edgewood petitioned for the special election to change the form of government to commission manager in order to get their voice back and to stop the corruption in town government, you were told by the chief election officer of New Mexico, the Secretary of State, to follow the law and hold the election. Instead, you, Councilors Abrams and Holly, along with Mayor John Bassett, tried to postpone the election because you didn't want it, even though it's what the people wanted. They turned out in historic numbers, 300% over normal turnout, 70% of people voted for it. The public voice doesn't get any louder than that, and you opposed it. Councilors Abraham and Jaramillo had to take you before a judge and have the judge order you to hold the election as per the law. The The new form of government that the people voted for required that you district the town and hold a new election for commissioners November 2nd of this year. Instead, you delayed and used excuses as to why the districting was not being done. You had to be brought in front of the judge yet again and ordered again to follow the law and district the town and hold the election for commissioners. The judge was, I'll never forget, the judge was really upset, saying it's been 6 months and you've done nothing. When former Mayor Bassett was removed from office by a legal action under the Fraud Against Taxpayers Act, you used taxpayer money to fight his removal from office. You, Councilors Abrams and Hawley, actually voted against the public's right to speak at our own public meetings and took public comment off the regular meeting agendas for the first time in Edgewood's history. Again, you had to be brought before a judge in order to do the right thing and let the public speak at our own meetings. You lost every one of these legal actions resisting the will of the people, wasted huge sums of taxpayer money in legal fees just to fight the law and the will of the people. What is the point? As unbelievable as that is, it gets worse. Right now, as we speak, you're spending taxpayer funds to pay the town attorney to fight the people and their right to speak. You're appealing the judge's decision that ordered that I was able to speak tonight. I want to know how many people in this room want your taxpayer dollars spent on legal fees to fight against your right to speak here. Now you're using the same delay tactics to try to deprive the people of what they have spoken out about loud and clear for the right to vote for all 5 of the new commissioners. At the June 23rd council meeting, Councilors Abraham and Jaramillo brought forward a motion to allow at-large voting, consistent with public input. They both voted for it. You both voted against it. Voter rights are some of the most sacred rights in America because they preserve and protect our democracy. The people have spoken on this issue. You each received over 150 emails regarding this in favor of at-large voting. When we had the public forum from court recently, the vast majority of people, I think there was one person that was on the fence. Everyone else wanted at-large voting. Our hard-earned taxpayer money should be spent on what's important to the people. Instead, your engineering report says you're $6 million behind on road maintenance. No new roads or trails have been built. The town's been deprived of funding for recreational projects. The problems are so numerous I could go on all night. But the point is, all of these problems flow from violating the fundamental principles that made this country the best and freest country on earth. That the government should be a reflection of the will of the people, to do the will of the people, not to rule over people and ignore their input, or worse yet, fight them with their own taxpayer dollars. I moved to Edgewood to enjoy the laid-back rural lifestyle, the openness, the great views, the wonderful people, and to enjoy my retirement. But as someone once said, life is what happens while you're making other plans. So I have set my retirement plans aside to do the work we've done in the Core Citizens Group because how important these issues are to me and to all of us. Thomas Jefferson said the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. There are those who went before us that fought and died for these principles so we could live free from government corruption and oppression. Having benefited enormously from their sacrifice, I feel compelled to pay that forward to those who will come after us and to do my part to restore government of the people, by the people, and for the people to Edgewood. For that reason, I've decided to run for Commissioner for District 2 where I live. If the people elect me, I plan to do my level best to see that open, honest government is restored and that it is a reflection of the will of the people that live here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Power. Let's see.
Okay, so I've never been here before. I've never come to a meeting, so first I have a question. Am I allowed to direct a question at any of you? Is that how it works?
No.
No?
It would be speaking a statement to the council.
Oh, okay, all right.
And we do need
So-
your name, ma'am.
I'll be happy to give you my name. My name is Barbara Barrett,
Thank you,
and
Ms.
I'm a
Barrett.
homeowner here in Edgewood. And listening to what Jerry has just told me, and as well as knowing about this for a while, all the stuff that has been going on, I just can't understand where democracy is. I don't see democracy. I see two people that get to take over the wants of, or the representatives of our people in Edgewood. You have two against taking care of Edgewood, and you have two for taking care of Edgewood. And the two for taking Edgewood always seems to get put down, and they just can't seem to get anything done to take care of the residents in Edgewood. Okay? We need roads. We need water management. We need flood management around here. We need things that are in the agenda and in the, I don't know all the details, okay, but they're in your plans to take care of Edgewood. We don't need to take over a water company because there's many Edgewood residents that do not have water from the water company. And that will make it become an Edgewood tax, and everybody's going to have to pay for a business that's working just fine to provide those of us who are using the water. We don't need to change that. And as an Edgewood resident, I'm appalled to know that you're spending our money on doing that. So I don't know who else is feeling these feelings of outrage, but things have to change. And it would not be good to try to push back the election. It would really not be good to try to stall any of that, because we need fresh people up here. It's not the Wild Wild West anymore. It's democracy. It's the country we live in. We live by democracy. Have a good day.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Does anyone else wish to speak at this time?
Yes, I do. I'm Chris Barrett, also a homeowner. And Jerry, thank you very much for stepping off in the right direction. I just reviewed the New Mexico State Constitution revised 2021. And Jerry brings up 2 points: popular sovereignty and the freedom of speech and press. Quote, all political power is invested in and derived from the people. All government of right originates with the people of Edgewood. Is founded upon our will and is instituted solely for their good. That is Section 2. Section 17, freedom of the press. Every person may freely speak, write, publish his sentiments on all subjects, being responsible for the abuse of that right. And no law shall be passed to restrain or abridge the liberty of speech or of the press. Ladies and gentlemen of our council, please heed the Constitution of New Mexico. This is the way we live civilly with one another, and let us go forth and do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett.
Mr. Mayor, Pearl, and councils.
Good evening, Mr. Anaya.
Mr. Anaya, I'm sorry. Philando Anaya, for those that don't know. I was going over the agenda today and trying to figure out what it is that the town is going to do about the election. I don't see anything on here discussing whether we're going to do anything at large, or are we going to do it per district. November 2nd is going to come very fast. August 28th is even going to come faster. I would like to know, as long as, and also many people in this audience and in the town, what is it that we are going to do? It's very important to me, as you all know, and I've made it very clear that I'm running for commissioner also, and my district will be District 5. But in order to run a campaign, items must be in place, and especially to make it successful. So I'm asking you guys, please, be considerate. You guys have the same opportunity as we do, except you control what it is that we're going to do. And I see you shaking your head. You do. I mean, it's been very clear. I just need to know. Please help us. So I'd like to see, if possible, that you could put something on the agenda tonight, if you can amend it, which is possible. So please, help us out. I mean, I can't beg anymore. I'm tired of begging, by the way. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Nile. Does anyone else wish to speak at this time?
Thank you for letting us be here today. My name is Kenneth Brennan. I live over Square H Road. Two things I want to bring up. First, I want to talk about the bridge project we have over there at Bachelor's Gulch, or Draw, whatever they call it. From what I understand, the bridge is extremely old, and the paint on that bridge, a lot of it is original paint. When that bridge was built, lead-based paint was the primary coating to put on steel structures. What I need to know, before we go and start trying to build this thing, which to me right now I think is a folly, we shouldn't even be trying to do this, has anything been done to discuss with the EPA what we're going to be doing with that lead-based paint?
That is part of the project, sir.
But as everything that I've read so far, I have not seen anything in writing as far as bringing that up and making sure that the town stays in compliance with the EPA, I think would be an extremely important item to be putting out and letting the people know what's going on. Keeping it under a pile of paper is not doing anybody any good. The last thing I want to see is Edgewood get fined or in trouble with the EPA and the state authorities because we didn't do our due diligence. The other thing for that, I understand the cost of that bridge is becoming to be extremely excessive. Right now, the town needs other things besides a bridge going over a gulch. All right, what the town needs is better infrastructure for the roads that we have, not for some place that's out in the middle of nowhere just to walk across. We need to spend our money smart, not just on fancy, whimsical items. Granted, someday, maybe that'd be a great idea, but right now it's not. Right now, our focus needs to be on the town's infrastructure, on what our roads are, the conditions of our roads. This past weekend, I decided to take a drive around District 1, which I am running for as a commissioner. And I've noticed the condition of many of those roads is poor. I'm a Jeep rider. I like to go off-roading. Some of these roads, the Jeep trails I drive on are better. All right, I know our roads out here, because of our weather, it is hard to maintain them. The longer ones with the heavier traffic, we need to start actually setting up and putting that plan together to make sure those roads get paved, and that the roads that feed into the main roads, that they're better maintained, and that the base structure is improved. That way it can hold up against the wear and tear we have. An additional problem to the wear and tear on our roads, I also noticed that people in this town, not everybody, but select some, like to travel extreme high speeds. The faster you drive on these roads, the more you tear them up. And that also includes the school buses. I have sat there and watched the school buses going flying down the roads, beating these roads to death. That is a large, heavy vehicle. And anything, those buses should be traveling at speeds below the posted speed limit to help maintain the longevity of our roads so we're not having to constantly spend money. The other thing I want to talk about as far as the voting, and that goes for the whether we're going to be going at large or by district. Right now, the town population is below 10,000. In fact, I think it's below 7,000 if my numbers were correct. Everybody in this town should have a voice to create the entire new government. No one should go ahead and just go ahead and divvy up all the districts. Everybody has stake in the game. Everybody needs to have a voice on the entire government. According to everything that I've read so far in New Mexico law, we have every right to have at-large voting. And to keep on brushing this one aside, giving fancy little reasons why you don't want to do it, is wrong. We need to do the will of the people, allow everybody in this town to vote for the entire new government. Anything else would just be an atrocity and totally wrong. Thank you.
I'd just like to address a few of the comments that were made, but I'd like to speak later also. If budget meetings have been going on.
Thank you, Ms. Hubbards.
And if some of the public, if you would, they're on recorded if you weren't able to go, and you could listen to what's going on in these budget meetings, you will find that a lot of the needs that you're complaining about are being met. The staff has been working very hard on solving the problems of roads, the bridge, more recreation in Edgewood. You have to, if you're running for office, sir, I suggest you listen to those budget meetings, and you'll find out what's going on with the bridge in great detail. They're all recorded for you to listen to. I understand a lot of people have to work, but sometimes you're making accusations and you don't know what's already being done. The other thing is this office spends a lot of time on IPA requests from CORE, over and over and over. It's a wonder they get done what they do get done, and that needs to slow down.
Thank you, Ms. Hubbards. Who else would like to speak?
My name is Julia Wood. We're newcomers. We moved out here in 1985. I helped with the shoe leather to collect signatures to get this incorporated for a specific reason. And I found out from some very nice people who used to work elections that we can also disincorporate when it's totally not working. So I just want to point that out. Right across, I live on Pinion, which is less than a mile long. Right across from our driveway, 1 year apart, 2 cars were totaled. They were both going over 64 miles an hour. It is a 30-mile-an-hour dirt road, and the school buses and FedEx and their friends are a lot of the problem. But also anybody under the age of apparently 60 who thinks all pedal to the metal is the only way to drive. And the first accident caused a great deal of injury to a 15-year-old. The second accident a year later was her mother. They both pass my house because they live at the east end and we live right in the middle. So whichever end you're coming from, you hit peak speed in front of our house. And I had understood that this meeting was going to include some discussion of how we were going to vote, whether by district or at large. If most of the people want at large, I do, and we always vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Wood.
Chris Orr, Coyote Crossing Estates. So I'm going to echo what some of the other people have said. I'm probably talking too loud. I thought the meeting tonight was going to be something to do with voting, because that we just keep kicking this can down the road, and I don't know what you're trying to prove or anything, but we need to come to some sort of a resolution. I can't figure out why you're digging your feet in about not having at large. That's what the majority of the town wants. Everybody wants at large, and we have 2 people that don't want to do it because they think they are doing such a great job that they won't get reelected. If you're doing such a great job, do it at large. Let's see if you get reelected. It blows my mind.
Does anyone else wish to speak at this time? I'm not seeing anyone, so I think we can move on.
Need to pull the callers.
Do we need to pull callers? I suppose we need to pull callers. Caller number 3. Do you wish to
Hi,
speak?
Martha Eden. I didn't think we would get a chance to speak, so I'm not prepared to speak right now. But in the next general comment for the section, I certainly would like to.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Eden. Caller number 4. Caller number 4, you're unmuted.
Well, this is Brandon Giossi. I just have the same comments as everyone else, just trying to figure out if we're doing this at large or by district. Thank you.
Caller number 5, do you wish to speak at this time? Caller number 5? I don't hear anyone at caller number 5 right now. Let's move on to caller number 6. You're unmuted.
Yeah, I would like to echo the why are 2 of our representatives not listening to us? Please let us vote at large.
Okay, could you identify yourself for us, please?
Yes, this is Kay Tanis.
Kay Tanis. Thank you, Ms. Tanis.
Correct.
What is that? What is that thing there? Oh, that's okay. All right. Okay. I think that's all the callers. Okay. I believe we've heard from everyone who wishes to speak at this particular point in time, and we will move on to discussion items and action items. Discussion, consideration, and action on the recommendation to hire Jared, and I'm going to butcher your name, Jared. I'm going to try it. Moduling?
Got it, right on.
I did do it. Okay, good. As a police officer for the town of Edgewood. Mr. Moduling?
Good evening, sir. How are you?
First, I would ask for a motion to approve, and then we will hear from Mr. Moduling.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Mayor Pro Tem's recommendation to hire Jared Modeling as a police officer for the town of Edgewood.
Second.
Got a motion and second. Discussion. What questions do we have for Mr. Moduling?
What brings you to Edgewood?
I actually grew up in Estancia Valley. I went to Estancia High School. I'm from around this area. I just moved up here recently with my family. We live here in Sandia Park. I like to work close to home and for a community that I know is a good, caring family-oriented community.
Thank you.
And how old is your child?
They're twins. They just turned 4 months.
Ah, there's 2. Oh, there's the other. Hello there. All right. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Council, do we have any other questions for Mr. Moduling or for the lieutenant or the sergeant?
Do you enjoy what you do?
I do. I love being a police officer. I've wanted to be it since I was a little kid.
What do you like about it?
I love kind of the satisfaction of being able to help people. When I first started in Santa Fe County, where I became a detective, where I got to go more in depth with the cases and actually communicate and work with victims, and seeing these crimes being resolved and the outcomes in the court, just seeing the gratitude on the victim's face and the people I'm helping, it really brings me joy.
It's really great. Just know that you are greatly appreciated for all of your service. Thank you very much. I hope you stay, if approved, I hope you stay with Edgewood for the long term.
I'm proud of it. Thank you.
Any other questions of council? Council, how do you vote? Councilor Jaramillo.
Aye.
Councilor Abraham.
Aye.
Councilor Holly.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Next item, discussion, consideration, and action on the recommendation to hire Dominic Romero as a maintenance worker for the town of Edgewood. Mr. Romero. And just as before, council, I'll entertain a motion
I have a quick question. Are we replacing someone or hiring additional staff?
This is the additional staff that we authorized to go out for.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I will make a motion to approve your recommendation to hire Dominic Romero as a maintenance worker for the town of Edgewood.
Do I hear a second?
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Time for discussion. Council, do you have questions for Mr. Romero?
Could you tell, I'm sorry.
What brings you to Edgewood?
Yeah, well, born and raised on my family's ranch between Chillicothe and Tehique, and I wanted something close. And it's a pretty nice town. My uncle works here too, so
Who's your uncle?
Pete Romero.
Councilor Holly?
Could you tell us a little bit about your work history, please?
Just a lot of maintenance and mechanicking. A lot of I've worked on a lot more like equipment, heavy equipment, and I don't know. It's just wide range. Growing up on a ranch, you just do everything. So that's pretty much. I'm not good at explaining it. It's anything and everything.
What are your long-term goals?
Just to find a place to retire. Keep my family
You're
ranch
too young
going.
for that.
You must enjoy what you do.
It's fun.
Good.
Do we have any more questions of Mr. Romero?
Who's going to be his supervisor?
That will be.
Okay.
Well, if there's no further questions, I'll call for a vote. Councilor Abraham, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilor Harmia?
Aye.
Councilor Holly?
Aye.
I vote aye as well.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Romero, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Well-needed additions. Thank you, Council. Next, discussion, consideration, and action on the recommendation of the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board to award $49,063 in lodgers tax, $49,063.03 in lodgers tax to B&R Construction to make improvements to the pavilion, and there was an error. This should be Venus Park, not Rotary Park. We don't have a Rotary Park.
Right.
So this would be to improve our pavilion and make some additions to it to make it even more, even better than it is currently. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation of the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board to award $49,063.03 to B&R Construction to make improvements to the pavilion at Venus Park.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board's award of $49,063.03 to B&R Construction to make improvements to the pavilion at Venus Park. Any discussion?
Discussion. I want to know, when are we planning on putting bathrooms over there?
We've kind of tossed that around a couple of different times now. I don't know.
I know it's been discussed. I thought that was the first improvement we had planned on making, because, you know, people, that would be one of the first improvements I think that would be most helpful in that area. So I would like to recommend that we look into that.
Absolutely.
And seriously pursue that.
I think we need to have you add that to our budget discussions Tuesday.
I can do that.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
I do have a question. This quote said it is good for 15 days, and it was dated back in May. So I just wonder if this dollar amount is still good.
Mayor Pro Tem, Councilor Holly. So the dollar amount is actually gone down a little bit. I didn't have that to update in the packet, but we did receive it, and we are looking at about 4,000 less, I think was what the current one came in at. So we went back and asked them to resubmit, so it is less, but didn't have it in time to put in the packet.
Okay, well, thank you.
I would like to suggest that we table this until we have an accurate quote.
It's 49.
Excuse me, are we allowed to ask any questions?
Generally, that isn't done until public discussion.
But before you vote?
That was what the public discussion hopefully should have covered prior to us moving to action. I do know that the cost of wood has gone down substantially, and this includes a lot of 2x6 headers, and that's why there is a reduction in cost. But it would be good to move forward at this time.
Well, I would like to move forward with an accurate quote so we know exactly what we're spending.
When do you think we would have an accurate quote?
Mayor Pro Tem, councilors, we have an accurate quote. We just didn't have it in time to put in the packet for the public to view.
I think
at
the
next
public
meeting.
needs to see it.
Would it be acceptable, Councilor Abraham, if one gives us the exact dollar amount to approve, knowing that it's lower, right? He may be able to just look up that in the email or print it off, and we can circle back to this agenda item.
Excuse me, at some point, may I please ask a question? I don't have a speech to make, I just have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering if this is the first time I've ever attended a meeting, and I'm just wondering if it is typical that you would vote on something with absolutely no specifics as to what's going to be done for the 49,000. You know, it just says improvements. I mean, that could be anything. Is that how this is normally done?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, Council, so in the packet, it clearly states that we'll be providing and installing mini roll-up doors, bays on each side, so that way when it's windy, you can still have events, still have things out there, and also install a 4-inch concrete slab under the existing pavilion. That is in the packet, publicly available, Mayor Pro Tem, Council.
Right. My concern is that the costs are wrong.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council, so once again, the request to the Lodgers Tax Board, which met on Thursday during our first budget meeting, Board Member McCall had requested that we go back and ask the company if they would be willing to reduce the price, and we did get that reduced price, but after we had already submitted the, put all the information in the packet.
I'm just uncomfortable approving something with incorrect amounts. This time it may be lower, but we don't know what's going to happen in the future. So I think we need correct information before it's brought before us.
Clerk, do you have the updated quote readily available?
Mayor Pro Tem, Council, if you'd like to take a quick recess, I can go get it.
I think that would be prudent because it's probably just the same as this quote here, except for the price, right? And so the terms are, well, in fact, the date is updated, so that's a good thing.
Council, I'll ask you to adjourn for a few moments while we get that paperwork if you wish to proceed with this.
That would be fine.
I agree.
We have a consensus, adjourn for 5 minutes. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll come back into session. Thank you, Mr. Torres, for bringing us these updated numbers. And these are pre-tax numbers? This is the pre-tax
Mayor Pro
subtotals?
Tem, Council, I was right but wrong at the same time. So the new quote has, which was dated July 12th, It has the same numbers on there, but it doesn't have the tax portion. So if you were to add the tax, it would actually be the exact same ask. But as you can tell, it's exactly about $4,000 less is why I said that. So I do apologize.
Okay, so in actuality, the labor and materials subtotals on both the roll-up doors and the 3,000 PSI concrete slab under the park building are the exact same prices, and what they are taking off is state tax.
Which we will have to pay.
Which we will have to pay. So it's exactly the same quotes.
Did we have any tax increases that may impact this on July 1st?
Mayor, council, the only tax increase would be on your internet taxes, but the town's GRT rates didn't change for any of the 3 counties.
Okay, thank you.
And so when Mr. McCall, you said that he went back and asked.
So there was a second phase, which it was omitted from this one, which is doors on the front, and that's not what we're asking for. So they approved.
So this is the sides.
These are just roll-up doors on the side, and I guess he did ask them to put doors on the front.
Are they going to?
Not for. I mean, that'll be an additional amount.
Okay. So the original amount of $49,063.03 is the amount that we're going to approve from lodger's tax.
Correct.
To fund this project. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so council, we did have a motion and a second.
I withdraw my motion to table.
Thank you. So council, are we ready to vote?
Yes.
Who did the motion in second?
I did the motion.
Okay, you guys did.
You seconded.
All right. Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, Councilor Jaramillo.
Aye.
Councilor Abraham.
Aye.
Councilor Holly.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. I think we will be improving our pavilion. Thank you, council. Next on the agenda, we have the annual discussion, consideration, and action on issuing the RFB for base course. So this is the annual request for bids for road base course, per state specification, crusher fines, engineered fill, chip for rock seal, and hauling. The deadline to submit the sealed bids is July 30th at 3 p.m., at which time bids will be opened. Bids can be mailed to the Town of Edgewood, P.O. Box 3610, Edgewood, New Mexico 87015, or dropped off here at 171A, State Road 344, Edgewood, New Mexico. Please contact Mr. Juan Torres or Ms. Carla Salazar for any questions regarding this bid by calling the town offices. 505-286-4518. Envelopes must be marked in the left-hand corner, sealed bids for road-based course. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion to go out for bid for base course.
And I'll second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Councilor Holly.
Aye.
Councilor Abraham.
Aye.
Councilor Jaramillo.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Next, we have Estancia Valley Classical Academy, also known as EVCA, a Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act, which the acronym is TEFRA, hearing representing EVCA will be Harlan Lawson, Kim Adams, Alicia Eckhart.
It's Urquhart.
Urquhart. My apologies. The hearing will be followed by a discussion and action on the resolution approving the issuance of bonds to the Estancia Valley Classical Academy. Please proceed.
My name is Harlan Lawson, and I just want to make a few comments before you all take action on this. I first want to thank the town council. It's a requirement because of the TEFRA Act for transparency, as you all probably already know. But the concept behind that act was to let people know that something is going on that's of a sizable nature. I wanted to, you already introduced Kim Adams here. She's the governing council member from the school, and Alicia Urquhart is our treasurer for the foundation. So Alicia and I basically are part of the landlord for the school, and so it's our job to find the facility or increase the facility as we need it. Thank goodness that the growth at the school has been such that we do need to increase the square footage for classrooms. And we're also going to be adding some facilities for the community living classroom to teach our special needs students how to better take care of themselves and survive on their own after they leave the school. Excuse me. For the first time, we'll be over 600 students this year at EDCA. And we're thankful for that growth, but that's what causes the need for more classrooms. When we built the building in 2018, we actually were approved by the state for up to 780 students, but that would put more than 30 students in some classes and an average of 30 students in all classes. We don't want to do that if we can help it, and so we are wanting to increase the size of the school and add some classrooms. And we're adding about 13,000 square feet to the facility. But the best part of this, and what I wanted to explain to the council and to the members of the public, is that we have a bond right now. That's the way we built the original building. It's at 7.25% interest because we didn't have any equity at the time, and so it was a higher interest bond. By refinancing that bond at a lower interest rate, which we can do now, and taking the additional money to build this addition to the bond, will actually save the school about $20,000 a month in outlay. Well, that's equal to about 4 teachers at the school. So it's a significant improvement for the school to do that. It's at a no net cost. In fact, it's a net savings for the school. And so we appreciate you all taking the action on this. The other point that I'd like to make before I stand for questions would be there's really no increase to the public or to the citizens here in their local taxes. Because it's a commercial bond, and it is paid for from the school paying the foundation, who then pays the bond holders. But there will be no increase in the bond, in the taxes to do that, because our money is already there. That everybody's paying right now is paying for the current bond, and it'll be less for the new bond, so there won't be any increase. Did you all have any other comments that you want to make or raise anything? Then we would stand for questions from the council.
I have one question.
Sure.
Holly Massey, I need to disclose, is my first cousin's wife. Will that impact my ability to vote on this?
It should not, because she does not have a decision-making process or in this process.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to disclose that to all.
No, I appreciate that. Anything else?
So you would be adding on, can you talk about the addition?
Yes, in fact, you should have a handout in front of you. You can see the second page is the actual floor plan, where we're going to actually see the additional classrooms. We're moving the music room to the outside of the current building. In other words, it'll have an exterior wall that is there now between it and the other classrooms, and we really think that'll help with the noise abatement and noise isolation from the rest of the classrooms. So, and what that did, we could have left the music room there and built 2 additional classrooms where that music room is going, but what this does is allows us to use those other areas for the new classrooms too. So we'll gain 2 new classrooms where we move that music room out to the outside of the current building. And then we have, we're adding bathrooms, of course, because we're adding capacity. We're adding a multi-purpose room, which we're very excited about. Right now, all of our students have to eat their lunch at their desk, and particularly the middle and high school kids would prefer to go somewhere else, and so this will give them an opportunity to go eat lunch at in the multi-purpose room. It will give us a chance to reduce the wear and tear on the gym floor through drama and music program practices and presentations because they can be held in the multipurpose room rather than in the gym. And, excuse me, and we're also building another parking lot to hold another 85 vehicles in the back because with our increased staff and with the increased student, particularly at the high school level, more of them will be driving. So we need more parking than we have right now. Did you have any specific questions?
One question about the community living classrooms. Will that be like a daytime activity?
It
or
is
will
daytime,
actually
it's
live-
during school,
Okay.
and it will be, we'll have it outfitted with cooking facilities, with laundry facilities, a sink, and so it'll be able to teach those living skills that are needed. So it will be during the daytime.
If I may, the community living classroom will be for high school students who are on the ability pathway to graduation, not the traditional. So they actually have to attain some hours of community living using the kitchen and things like that. And that's what the community living classroom will do, is help them with those skills. Also, students who, I forget the term, I apologize, but students who graduate, but their IEP team deems that they can return after graduation until age of 22 by law for additional skills. They spend a lot of time in community living classrooms to attain those kind of skills to help them succeed after they're done at age of 22. I hope that helps.
It does. I have a son who's blind, and he went to the School for the Blind, and they had a similar program. But their program, they actually lived in this facility, day and night for a month. So that was just needed clarification.
It's during the normal school hours, not an overnight thing.
Okay, thank you.
Would this impact traffic flow or parking?
We think we've got parking covered with the new parking lot, so I don't think it'll affect parking. I believe it'll actually improve parking flow because with our dropping off and pickup now, which can impact traffic out on 344, we'll actually add a second drop off and pickup point on the back of this new addition so that there'll be two places where students can be dropped off and picked up. So it should improve that back up at on 344.
I'll add, we continue to ask the Department of Transportation to give us a school zone, and we continue to be ignored. So we're still trying to get a slowed down speed limit there and lights.
Well, not only that, but they
Previous
promised
Chief
us
Crow even
a stoplight,
assisted us in that.
both there and up at the middle school on 344. When we first, our second day of school, they had a rep down here from the Department of Transportation and reviewed the traffic at both places and came back and told us he was clearly going to get a stoplight at both places. That hasn't happened yet, and we keep, in fact, the last time I was up in Santa Fe, I talked to the Lieutenant Governor as the public's advocate, and he said he would look into that personally to try to solve that. But we really need that for safety at both those places.
My son does attend EVCA, so I don't think that this would impact my voting because of the benefit to the public being much greater than to just Dominic. But I just wanted to say while you're here, thank you so much for all that you do for the kids. Thank you, thank you. You guys are an excellent school. He was thriving during COVID. Even working remotely, so you did a fantastic job. And it was most of you know, I fought against the closure of this school here. Very sad to my heart that Edgewood Elementary, was closed. However, EVCA is such a welcome addition to the community, and I'm just really thankful that you're here. So to see this expansion and to know that it's actually going to save money and allow you to add teachers for our community students is just wonderful. So I'm really glad that you thought outside the box and came up with this plan to have solutions for the kids. And one of the complaints I had heard back on the school board was that EVCA at the other location was maybe not as friendly to those with disabilities. So I see this as even directly addressing that complaint, whether it was true or not, but it is something that addresses the special needs students as well, so it's fantastic.
I'll just add, my husband and I are 2 of the 9 founders of EDCA, and our second child is severely disabled. So I take offense when people say we weren't. When we founded the school, special education was very much part of what we were after. So I just feel like I need to say that.
All right, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Do we have any other discussion? Any questions?
I have no questions, but I would like to say thank you for being such a treasure to the community, and congratulations on your success that you're able to grow so quickly.
And if there's nothing else, I'll second that, and we can certainly move on to the action item with regard to the resolution. And I will go ahead and make the motion to approve.
I'm sorry, can I say something really quick?
Yes, certainly.
We have to do, I've been working with
Okay.
with Harlan's attorney, their bond attorney. We do have to have a public portion of this hearing.
I
So
see.
if anybody wants to speak up, they have to be able to
Ah,
come up.
okay.
Sorry.
If I didn't realize this was an official public hearing. It doesn't quite say that here. So at this time, if there is anybody who wishes to address this issue, if you could come forward and identify yourself.
Chris Orr. Yeah, I think the Academy is a great addition to the town. Really happy it's here. Nothing but good things for it. I am concerned with the traffic situation over there, and I think, yeah, light, whatever, but just some traffic enforcement of watching cars fly up and down that road could mitigate a lot of things, because I have seen some close calls with cars either going in or coming out, or they kind of stack up on the side right there. So I would just like to see a little bit more traffic enforcement in that area of the school during school hours. So let's say.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak at this time? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of this, and then we will now move on, and I will make the motion to approve the Town of Edgewood resolution.
Maybe check the callers. I'm not sure if they.
I suppose we should check the callers,
Just
yeah.
to be sure.
Just to be sure, sure. Why not? Caller number 3.
Yeah, Martha Eden, I love the school. I'm glad it's here. Whatever we can do to help them, I'm 100% for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Caller number 5. I didn't hear anyone at call.
Yeah, this is Bryce. Hello?
Hello, Mr. Seegers.
Yeah, Bryce Seeger. And, 100% behind this action. We need back to schools, one of the top schools in the state, and it's what we are striving for in all of our other schools. We used to be there, and so I'm all for the motion and the action. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seegers. Caller number 6. Do you wish to speak?
I do. I'm in consensus. I really appreciate the Academy, and I'm glad to see it grow.
Thank you, caller number 6. I'm not quite sure who that was.
Kay Tennis.
That was Kay Tennis? Ms. Tennis, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Are we ready to move to the resolution? I believe we are. I'll make a motion to approve Town of Edgewood Resolution number 2021-10, a resolution approving the issuance of bonds to the Estancia Valley Classical Academy Foundation.
I'll second with a C in Estancia.
Yeah, there's a spelling error. Oops. We can correct that really quickly. We have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any further discussion? I hear no further discussion. Councilors, how do you vote? Councilor Jaramillo?
Aye.
Counselor Abraham,
Aye.
Counselor Holly.
Aye.
I vote aye as well.
Thank you.
Thank you and all that you do. Next on the agenda, we have a presentation of fiscal year 2020 audit, followed by discussion, consideration, and action on Resolution 2021-11, accepting the fiscal year 2020 audit. Mr. Torres, do you want to get us started with this?
I believe Miriam from Harshwell.
You want to unmute? She's muted herself.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, hello, Council. Hello, Mr. Torres. I will share my screen. I am with Harshwell and Company, and I'll be going over the audit results for the fiscal year 2020.
Okay, please proceed.
Yes, I wanted to share my screen, but I believe the system is not allowing me to. I will be going over the audit, the audit results,
She's
and then the required communication.
she's trying to share her screen. Hold on just a moment, Miriam. Does she have? She has the rights to do it, but what's going on?
Yeah, I believe Mr. Torres is probably our system. Our system security system ID is not allowing me to do that. It's telling me to do it through system preference, which may take time to do so. Yeah. So I believe that Council, you have a copy of the audit report. The engagement team and the audit was composed of Mr. Stonewall Harshwell, who is the owner of the firm, myself, Miriam Tall, Albert Hughes, and Yang Lee, who is a staff auditor, and our concurrent reviewer was Samson Ryder, another CPA from our Oakland, California office. The audit results, the corporation was received from members of management. We issued a qualified opinion on the audit. All appropriate disclosure has been properly reflected in the financial statement and the footnotes. In planning and performing our audit of the financial statement, we considered the town's internal control over financial reporting as for designing our auditing procedure for the purpose of expressing our opinion on the financial statement, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the town's internal control. Accordingly, we do not express an opinion on the effectiveness of the town's internal control. Our consideration of internal control was for the limited purpose described, as mentioned earlier, and was not designed to identify all deficiencies in internal control that might be significant deficiency or material weaknesses. We had a couple of findings in the 2020 audit, and the audit was reviewed and released by the State Auditor's Office. You can find it on the also website as well, if you would like to have a copy of it for the public. The first finding is finding 2020-001 for annual inventory certification, which was a prior year finding for fiscal year 2019. So this was a repeated and modified finding. And the condition of the finding was that the town did perform an annual capital asset inventory certification of their capital asset listing. However, the listing was not complete and accurate prior to approval and certification. During our test work and analysis of a capital asset, we noted several items which were not included in the assets listing prior to its certification, and capital asset addition to listing was not matching with the TV and general ledger details of the capital outlay. Our recommendation to the town is to implement the system to accurately track, maintain, and update changes in inventory on an annual basis. We also recommend going back and making sure that the listing is accurate and account for all items that should be recorded and capitalized. The next finding was related to stale dated checks. This is all the non-compliance. Prior year finding number was 2019-004. It's also a repeated finding. And the condition of the finding was that the town had 2 stale checks in the Wells Fargo old cash accounts, which were over 1 year old. The town did send out a written notice to the apparent owner. However, the town has not reported the paid or turned over the funds to the unclaimed property division of the New Mexico Taxation and Revenue Department. And our recommendation is that the town put into place a system to account for and track stale dated checks, and also review the outstanding checks, register as soon as possible or more frequently. Once they identify all the stale checks, the town should send a written notice to the apparent owner, not more than 120 days or less than 60 days before filing the unclaimed property report. The next finding is over internal control over cash and monthly closing process. This is a repeat and modified finding. Prior finding was 2019-006. And the condition of the finding was that during our review of the bank reconciliation to determine whether bank reconciliation are being performed in a timely manner and where the old bank and investment statements for the fiscal year are complete and on hand. We noted that the town did perform the bank reconciliation for each month no later than 29 days from the statement date. However, as per review of the minutes, we noted some instances where the monthly financial reporting packet was not provided to the trustee at the monthly council meeting. So we recommended that the town put into place a strategy to make sure that financial reports are provided in a timely manner to the trustee. The following finding is 2020-004, internal control of a cash disbursement. So this was a new finding in 2020. During our test work of a disbursement, we noted that out of 10 glass card transactions tested, for 2 samples there was no receipt to substantiate this charge on the statement. And for 1 sample, the odometer reading was not entered in. And our recommendation is to have all personnel in charge of preparing, reviewing, and approving disbursements, perform a review of all supporting documentation to ensure accuracy and appropriate payment for purchases and reimbursements. And the last finding, finding 2020-005, was over financial clause in reporting. This was a new finding. And the condition of the finding was that during our audit, we noted that the town financial clause and reporting process where there were unsupported accounts receivable and payable balances of the governmental and business type funds at year end, and grocery taxes, gasoline, and other receivable balances. The town lacked controls to ensure all accounts receivable and payable are reconciled during the year at year end. And our recommendation is that management evaluate all aspects of the financial clause and reporting process and establish effective internal controls and procedure to ensure accurate financial statement and supporting schedule. As far as the required communication, we conducted our audit in accordance with GAAP, generally accepted auditing standards. The audit does not relieve management or those charged with governance of their responsibilities. The audit provides reasonable but not absolute assurance that the financial statements are free of material misstatements. The audit is not designed to provide assurance on internal control or to identify deficiencies in internal control. The audit was conducted as planned and previously communicated. Now in the letter. Consultation with other accountants. We did not consult with any other accountants. The accounting estimate and accounting policies are in the notes of the financial of the audit report. Disagreement with management. We did not have disagreement with management. Difficulties encountered in performing the audit. We had no difficulties. We obtained information from those charged with governance relevant to audit in regards to fraud. They were required to do so for LSAP 99 and receive responses. For prior findings, repeated findings were 2019-002 annual inventory. This was a prior finding and was repeated in 2020. Sale dated checks also was a 2019 finding, repeated as well in 2020. Internal control over cash and monthly closing process. We had result finding was travel and per diem disbursement was resolved. Late IPA recommendation and audit contract was resolved. Non-compliance with the New Mexico Environmental Department was resolved. Violation of the Open Meeting Act was resolved in 2020. Violation of the Challenge and Nepotism Ordinance was solely resolved in 2020. Do you have any questions for me?
Council, have you any questions for our auditor?
Miriam, this is Counselor Audrey Jaramillo. I was going to ask you to cover the auditor opinions and the opinion letter language on page 6 as far as the basis and the qualified opinion, just so everyone can kind of understand what you meant by that.
Yeah, of course. So the basis for a qualified opinion was that management has implemented proper interest control over governmental or business type capital assets, nor over the expenditures and expenses related to the governmental and enterprise funds, sufficient enough to provide evidence that all balances of capital assets are accurate and complete. The capital asset listing was not complete and accurate prior to approval and certification. During our audit, we noted several items which were not included in the asset listing prior to certification. The amount by which this departure would affect the assets and balance, net position, revenue, and expenditures, expenses of the governmental activities. And this haven't. And in a qualified opinion, on page 6 also, in our opinion, except for possible effect of the matter described in the basis for a qualified opinion, paragraph which I read earlier, the financial statement referred to above present fairly in all material respects, the respective financial position of the governmental activities, the business type activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the town of Edgewood as of June 30th, 2020, and the respective changes to financial position, where applicable cash flow thereof and the respective budgetary comparison of the general fund, and make a special revenue fund for the year ended in accordance with accounting principles. And as mentioned earlier, our responsibility is to express an opinion on these financial statements based on our audit and based on the work that was performed. The opinion was a qualified one.
Can you also address the town's portion of the unfunded liability at the state level of the para RHCA, that basically the pension liabilities that the town has had to put on the balance sheet?
Hello?
Yes.
Could you speak a little bit louder? Who was that? I didn't get the question.
Yes, I was wondering if you could address for council and the public the pension and OPEB liabilities that are the unfunded portion from the state that has to be added on to our balance sheet.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Hello?
I don't think she
Can you
can
hear
hear
me?
you. Hello? I think we have a problem. I don't think it's on our end, though. Miriam, can you hear us?
Hello?
Yes, we're here.
I think we have a technical issue, and it does not appear to be on our end, which is not unusual.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yeah, hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm listening to see if I can connect to the hotspot. I think the hotel network is going in.
No, it's fine.
Hello?
Can you type her a chat message real quick? Do you have a keyboard? You type her a chat message. We're going to try and call her. It's very hard to understand her.
Hello? Yes, hi Juan. I'm not sure you guys are in the hotel here in the tribal area. Right? Yeah, I get to do it on my phone. Let me call her.
My understanding is she's out on the Navajo reservations. She's going to call in. Whatever is her computer connection, which is terrible. She's going to call. Okay, so we'll look for caller 7, I guess. Maybe. No, I don't see her in there yet.
Yeah, that's.
We need upgrades in network infrastructure.
I don't know if other council members had questions, but we could probably just move forward if she's unable to.
It's my understanding she's on the Navajo reservation, and their connectivity is not very, well, say what it is, it's not good.
Can we possibly have Councilor Jaramillo explain what that means, since she is also an auditor of governmental agencies?
I can do that. I just wanted her to cover so that you all knew, but I can explain it. But I'm just concerned if you guys have any other questions for her. But basically, I'll just point out, what I wanted her to cover for you is on page 19 in the balance sheet, the statement of net position. Basically, here under the governmental activities, there is a net pension liability and a net OPEB liability, which is the RHCA Retiree Healthcare Authority. And so for these two liabilities, I just thought the number was pretty large. They relate to our town employees specifically, and we have about $3.5 million on the pension liability and 1.1 million on the OPEB, the RHCA, Retiree Healthcare Authority money. And essentially what that is I just like to remind everyone that the state has not fully funded these plans. And each year we try to lobby and ask the state to fully fund the plans. But because they have not, we do have these liabilities pushed onto our balance sheet. And so you're looking at least, $4.5 million of liability on the town's books because of the state not funding the pension plans fully. And it's not a cash impact to us at this time anyway. But I just wanted to point that out and have her explain that to you guys. It's something that usually we point out to our clients so that they can kind of keep an eye on that and so that they can make sure to remind the legislature to fund what they promise our employees. I don't think I had any other. Did she join yet?
She hasn't joined yet. She's trying to call in because her network connection is just terrible. So.
Okay. I don't think that I had any other specific questions. Just a comment that, of course, some of these, I've already spoken to you guys about for the past 3-4 years, since 2018. So really not a surprise to me anyway on, the capital assets listing, for example, the qualified opinion, which they came to that on their own accord, and in their testing apparently same conclusion that I had. So we really need to not be approving a list that's not accurate. When that comes up again, there's a resolution that is supposed to be, certification is supposed to be done at or around year end each year, but we can't really certify when we know that the list is not accurate, so please don't do that this year, Councilors Abrams and Hawley. So I hope that you listen to my advice this year. The internal control over financial close and reporting, the material weakness, that part I did want to ask the clerk and Amelia, because that was one thing that surprised me about that you lack controls to ensure all accounts receivable and payable are reconciled during the year or at year end. I wasn't sure what happened there.
Mayor Pro Tem, Councilors, so if you recall, we had budgeted for a position so Dora could do some cross-training. The position was not filled until afterwards, and ultimately it's my responsibility. I wasn't able to get Amelia trained on everything right at fiscal year end, so I'm sorry.
Didn't she come in and do the audit though later in the year?
Harshwell actually came in early in the fiscal year.
Because they dated December 15th, so I just thought
when they turned it in, but their field work they were in much earlier.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
I did notice that also, Councilor Jaramillo, about management's response saying that they had requested the governing body to authorize a hire prior to fiscal year to help ensure that there would be a smooth transition. But due to budget concerns of the governing body, that hire was not authorized until after the fiscal year end. So I went back and listened to that meeting. That was June 10th of 2020. And Councilor Abraham had moved to table to the next meeting the hire of Amelia Alderetti because she wanted to see what the legislature's budget would be for us. And Councilor Jaramillo, you had seconded that. And then Councilor Abrams went on to say that we need somebody in the accounting department. We risk another audit finding. This motion is not a good idea. And we had a vote on it. Councilor Abraham and Councilor Jaramillo voted yes to that motion. Abrams and myself voted no. Then there was another motion that was made. Councilor Abrams had made the motion to approve the hire for Amelia Alderetti. I had seconded it. Again, Councilor Abrams said that we've got several employees that have been retired. We need to make sure someone is accounting for our monies. I had mentioned that Amelia had gone to earn her certification of Chief Procurement Officer, And I didn't want to put this off for another couple weeks either. And finally, Councilor Jaramillo, you had said, well, timing is the issue. And you proposed the friendly amendment for us to make a start date of July 1st. So I know Councilor Abrams voted yes. He wanted to get this through. I voted yes, but it was, you that were saying timing isn't right. We need to push this off. And then consequently, we did get that finding. So
I would like to mention that it's not a direct correlation in all actuality, because year-end AR and AP is as of June 30. She started July 1st. The auditors don't come in until all of the PBCs are ready. So when we provide the payables and receivables from the town, we don't give it to them until it's ready for audit. And so there's, quite a few months between July and December to get it right.
well, this is for the year ended June 30th, though.
But they audit the year ended, right? So
I'm just saying
AR and AP, I know what you're saying, but like Mr. Torres says, he knows accounting. It's his responsibility as well. There were many, many months that AR and AP could have been calculated. In fact, you can't calculate AR and AP in June. You have to do it in July. So it's not a direct correlation, but I understand where you're trying to go with that. It's just that we should have been able to calculate what we owed people as of June 30 and who owed us as of June 30. So that was my curiosity, is what did Miriam, did she find an adjustment, or did she, what the exact issue there was with those balances, like how come they were wrong?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'm not sure. I don't recall at this time.
Did she propose any audit adjustments?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I have not received any audit adjustments yet.
Okay. All right. Well, if she
Well,
was
since
with
this
us,
is
we might be able to ask her where she was coming from on this finding. But
I would assume that since this is the final audit and it has already been approved by the state auditor's office, that there would be no adjustments at this point.
no, I mean adjustments to the accounting records. They call them journal entries.
Yeah, I'm aware of journal entries, but I'm unaware of any.
Another issue that I have is, of course, I've asked every single year to be involved in the audit process and been denied. So I'll ask again for this year to ensure that I'm involved in the audit process, so that I could possibly even prevent something like this in any way that I could, or at least be able to understand it. Being in the exit conference is something that I requested specifically and was completely ignored. My emails were ignored, my requests were ignored. Didn't even get the respect of a phone call or an email back. So here we are with the qualified opinion yet again, and the findings continue to get worse. It's really disappointing to me.
I have a question for Councilor Jaramillo. Would that not be a conflict of interest, since the audit firms are all competitors of yours?
No, it would not be. She's an independent auditor. I'm on governance. It's two different things. I'm not bidding. It would be a conflict of interest. I would not be able to perform the town's audit itself. But yeah, definitely being involved in the process would be a good thing. That brings up the conflict of interest with our auditor that was proposed for this year. Ms. Nixon, I still do need to see the contract from Beasley Mitchell.
Counselor, I think we're wandering off the current audit. Let's keep our focus on where we're at right now, please. I don't know if we're going to hear from Ms. Tall at all at this point. So I don't know whether we should continue this discussion further, whether we should go ahead and call for approval or whether we should table till when we can get a better connection. I'll leave that up to the council's decision.
If you all don't have any other questions of her, I'm okay with moving forward.
I have no questions for her.
I'm fine going forward.
Okay, then I guess we can consider action on the resolution 2021-11, acceptance and approval of the fiscal year audit for 2020. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to pass Resolution 2021-11, acceptance and approval of the fiscal year 2020 audit.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No further discussion. I'll call the vote. Councillor Jaramillo.
Aye.
Councillor Abraham.
Aye.
Councillor Holly.
Aye.
Aye as well. We have a 2020 audit. Next, we have a discussion, consideration, and action on Resolution 2021-12, authorizing the Mayor Pro Tem to enter into a fiscal agents agreement with Mr. Cog on capital outlay projects. Council, before you is the resolution. This is a recommendation, and I will defer to our clerk treasurer, Mr. Torres.
Yes, Mayor Council, so this resolution, because of our audit findings, we're now required to have a fiscal agent for this current year's capital outlay. So that we spoke with Mr. Cog. Mr. Cog will be willing to do it. And then, of course, with EFA's approval, once we receive that, once you guys authorize this, then any of the funds we received this last year we can move forward with. And the procurement process would be the same. We would follow our procurement, submit it to Mr. Cog. They would review it, give it the green light, submit it to DFA. But this would just authorize Mayor Pro Tem to sign this agreement.
After it's been reviewed basically twice.
Correct.
Okay, I have a question. How much is this going to cost us?
Mayor Pro Tem, so the agreement, I believe, Mr. Cog, I mean, it's our capital outlay, and they would essentially charge, my understanding is they would just charge us up to their cost for reviewing it, not to exceed 2%.
2% of the project
Of the
work?
project. But I can't fathom any time where they would have to, spend more than
a couple hours.
More than a few hours reviewing it.
Okay, so it could cost us as much as 2% of like the $900,000 we got for the wastewater plant?
That's what they have in the language, but what Mr. Cog says, because when we spoke with them, they do this for a lot of small entities, and most of them, their capital outlay are, 40, 50, less than 100,000, so that's why they put that in there, not to exceed. And from what Mr. Cog told us, this is just to recoup their actual cost for the time that they spend working on it.
Are we going to see this MOU?
As we have them, I mean, this is just authorizing Mayor Pro Tem to do it, but my understanding is for each capital outlay appropriation we receive, there'll need to be an MOU.
Okay.
Which they'll all be the same, minus, I guess, just the little control numbers that they put.
Okay, thank you.
I was curious as to the reasoning for this. When I called DFA, they gave me a few reasons for this. Basically, financial instability as far as the removal of former Mayor Bassett under the Fraud Against Taxpayers Act, so instability in government, the qualification on the audit opinion, and then also the number of findings, and specifically the financial related findings. So what feedback did you get from DFA as to this reason that we have to now go through another entity just to keep track of our books and pay bills?
Mayor Pro Tem Council. So I received two of the ones that I received. One was the instability with the governing body, and then the other one was specific to our finding on capital assets.
Okay.
So basically, we cannot accept any of the capital money or spend it without us approving this, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So, and Mayor Pro Tem Council, once again, this is specific to the funds that were awarded this year. All the previous capital outlay funding that we have, we still have. We will not require a fiscal agent agreement on. So this would be this would also include, my understanding, would include the junior appropriations bill as well.
Okay. So this is really the state's way of having oversight due to concerns about our stability and financial status and findings and qualification over capital assets. So then we have to hire a fiscal agent to make sure that everything runs through capital outlay for what's appropriated this year, right?
Correct, that is my understanding, and that's
Okay.
what DFAs relate to us.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2021-12, authorizing the Mayor Pro Tem to enter into fiscal agent agreements with Mr. Cog on capital outlay projects.
Do I hear a second?
I will second that.
Got a motion and a second to approve the Mr. Cog MOU resolution 2021-12.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, sorry.
Yes.
One modification on the last page, we need to change the month to July instead of June.
It needs to be changed to July, yes indeed. My copy, we've done so. We will do that on the signed copy as well. We have a motion and a second. Council, how do you vote? Councilor Harmio?
Aye.
Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
Councilor Holly?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you, Council. Next, discussion, consideration, and action on how to allocate $50,000 awarded to the town of Edgewood by the New Mexico State Legislature for youth and community programs.
Mayor Pro Tem, I would like to hear from the public at our following budget meetings before we make a final decision on this. So I would like to table this item until the meeting at which we finalize the budget, and then at that time we can make a specific decision on how to allocate this $50,000. And for all of you, I would like to hear feedback. We have some ideas that I've been discussing with Carla that we've thrown around, but it would be good to hear from you all too.
So is that a motion to table then?
Motion to table until the meeting where we finalize the budget one. I'm not sure the date that will be, but it would be that, whatever that meeting is, where we do the final vote on the budget for this coming year.
And I would like to recommend that we have something in our packet that talks about, what are some ideas to spend it. We're going to take action on how to spend this, but there's no ideas, no plans, no
Mayor Pro
nothing.
Tem, Council, if I may. So Councilor Jaramillo had said that this should be a decision of the governing body, not of staff. That's why we didn't put any proposed items in there.
Well, in collaboration with Carla is what I have always said, and I have talked to her several times. Her and I noticed that she had to leave, but her and I did discuss her conversations with the summer program, for example, and because of COVID, everything being delayed. So we are in collaboration together, but I did think that it was something that council should be able to make the decision on as far as how it's finally allocated. So it's pretty much, Councilor Abraham, what we've discussed in the past, but there are some options. So at the next budget meeting, Carla and I will present those again.
Okay, because the community has no idea what we've discussed for the most part. They have no idea what our ideas are or thoughts or anything else, so, it'd be nice, my other problem is we have discussion, public meeting on the budget, but there's no budget. I mean, how are they supposed to comment on something that doesn't exist?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, if I may. So once again, the public hearing portion of this meeting is a requirement of DFA, and this is just for us to hear from the public as to what they would like. If there was any projects they would like, if there's any programs, that's the purpose of that time. And that's why it's on there.
But it would be nice if they knew how much money we had, or how much we had available to spend, how much is dedicated to other things. I think we need more information before the next public meeting.
Mayor Pro Tem Council, once again, that's posted. The interim budget is online, is available for the public.
Have most of you folks seen that?
No. How about a skeet range?
Founders Ranch has a pretty good one.
Okay, so I made a motion to table until that final budget meeting.
And I don't think we heard a second, or did we hear a second?
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and second to table. Councilor Holly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
Councilor Harmio?
Aye.
I'll vote aye as well. Item 3, consideration and action on the allocation of $50,000 for youth and community programs is tabled.
And it looks like we have our next budget workshop July 20th. Is that? And then the next council meeting in July 28th? Does that sound tabled to July 28th?
We will need to talk about that. The next item on our agenda is a public meeting, fiscal year 2022 budget for the town of Edgewood. Hopefully people in the public will comment and tell us what they think that they want. I know one of the top items always has been roads. And that's definitely been in the last 2 budget discussions that we've had. We've got some numbers with regard to that from our roads department, but I would certainly love to hear from the community. So if anyone wishes to speak, now would be the time to do so.
Just have a couple of comments on the budget. I heard Ms. Hubbard's comments regarding that some of these needs are being met, and I remember reading the Bohannon Houston engineering report that said there's $6 million in deferred maintenance on the paved roads in Edgewood. So I'm wondering why we're spending $1 million on a bridge. Angel Fire put in one like that cost about $150,000. I'm a general contractor. I have a GF98, which is roads and bridges. I've installed those. I'm just astounded at the waste of money when we're going begging on these deferred maintenance ideas. It's like painting the house when the roof is caving in. So I would say we ought to spend the money on these items rather than on these fluffy, conceptual, artistic ideas that seem to be just wasting money. The other thing is I've heard from people consistently over the years here that they want trails and they want recreational opportunities. This administration stopped funding the maintenance for the equestrian center, which is a very popular item here. Now we've got a bunch of citizens who pay taxes just like we all do, out there having to do it themselves, having to do the maintenance and basically performing town functions because the town won't pay for it.
Mr. Powers, can I interrupt you just a second?
Yeah.
The Equestrian Center is a Santa Fe County facility, and I think that criticism should be taken to the county commission.
Well,
we have tried. We have tried negotiating with Santa Fe County, and it hasn't happened. But I think if you go up there and say what you're saying right now, I think you might be effective.
I'd be glad to do it.
Please do.
Over the years, Edgewood has managed to get along with Santa Fe County prior to this administration, so this problem is a new one.
Well, no, it's not. It's been around for quite a while.
Well, if you'd like to debate me sometime on it, I'd be glad to do it in an open forum where it's an equal standing on a dais, if you'd like to do that.
Perhaps that can happen one day.
So in furtherance of my comments, I would like to see what the people want here, which are, it's not much. It's roads, keep up the roads, keep the maintenance up, don't get into a backlog, build some trails. And I've heard a lot of talk about it in the last couple of months now that the election is on, but not much has happened in the last 5 or 6 years. So those are the comments that I have regarding the budget. And then I guess I have a request, but it probably is better under public comment because you want items specific to the budget, correct?
Yes, please.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Powers.
Karen Kaiser. Regarding the budget workshops, I'm retired, so I've watched both of them online. But I thought Councillor Abraham raised a really good point. Most people in our town are working at 1 o'clock on a Tuesday or at 9 a.m. on a Thursday. So other than people like me who have time on our hands, I heard the comment made by either you, Mr. Abrams, or one, like, too bad we're not hearing from the public. They're at work. So yes, they can watch it the next day or the day after, but if you want feedback, it would really be helpful to have it in the evening like this. We filled the room tonight, or on a Saturday. I think people would be willing to give up their free time, but they can't take a day off work to come make a comment at a budget workshop. So the scheduling has been awkward. If you want public comment, thanks.
Anyone else?
I would like to just make a few comments, if that's okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Should we ask our callers first?
Yes. Sure.
Let's see.
Hi, this is Martha Eden, and I do have a couple of comments. They were going to be general comments, but they actually do apply to budget items. And while I unconditionally support our police force, as I recall, we have 2 vacancies last November, and we're excoriated roundly by Officer Morris for that. But since then, we've hired, I think, about 5 policemen. So it seems to me that we either have a turnover problem, or we are greatly increasing our police force. I don't know which it is. But when we have new employees, I think it would be helpful for citizens to understand, is this replacing someone who left? Why did they leave? Or are we adding to staff for some reason? And one of the reasons I'm concerned about that, and I know Councilor Hamia brought this up, but the numbers are startling. Our pension liability actually increased 150% from the fiscal year 2016 to fiscal year 2020. It went from 1.8 million to 4.6 million. Now I understand PERA is managing these funds to give us a return so we don't have to pay all of this out of our own funds. However, their extrapolated returns of 8% a year are a myth. That's not going to happen. I've been in the stock market since 1967. There is no such thing as 8% a year. And so I think we're going to end up, the town is going to end up owing a whole lot of that liability. And it's a number that's rising exponentially. It's going up at a higher rate every year. And I think I hope our new government in November, our town manager and 5 commissioners start to address this. I don't know if it has to do with excessive turnover in employees or what it is, but it could hurt the town drastically in years to come. And then the other issue is the $50,000 we have from the legislature, which I assume we actually could have started using after the governor's veto deadline, which I think was in April sometime. And now we're 3.5 weeks from school starting and we've done nothing. And I find that completely appalling. I think Councilor Jaramillo tried to get this on an action agenda a couple of times and was denied. But to do it now, when we're almost into August and school starts in August, is ridiculous. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Eden. Caller number 5.
No comment.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Jaramillo.
Yes, so I just wanted to give an executive summary with a little bit of detail of our last couple of meetings for the benefit of the public. So the first budget meeting, and just to kind of reiterate what the clerk shared at those meetings, is typically what we do is we hear from all of the division directors and we hear what their wish list is, so to speak, and they make requests for increases in budget, and we listen to them and take into consideration their priorities and what's important to them. And the clerk will put together a list of, the current budget and then the requests and then what he's recommending the increase or decrease be by each department, essentially. And so we're at the point right now where we are listening to the directors and the leadership for each area. So the first time we listened to a lot about roads and requests for another road team. So I think it would be another 2 employees, is that right? Or is it 4? 2?
Two employees would give us
the two
crews of 3.
Okay. Right. So 2 crews of 3, so we need 2 more for roads. That's what they're asking for. Equipment, like graders, backhoes, all kinds of road equipment that's needed as our equipment is just aging. Then we did hear from maintenance and had a request for another employee to keep up with maintenance. The library, we heard a lot about what the library does, what all they've done during COVID, and I appreciated their get it done attitude. And she is requesting 2 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees. And then we heard from the chief and the police, and he had a lot of equipment requests and some other things that I don't know. I can't remember offhand. I don't have his list in front of me. But I do remember talking about vehicles, firearms, equipment again. And I don't think he was requesting additional personnel, was he? No, he's not. And I did request that we take a look at implementing something for rewarding, in a way, the police officers who stay with the town. So not necessarily longevity pay, but something for those who have loyalty and stay with the town, because it is so costly to keep hiring new and having that turnover. So I just really want to invest into those who are loyal to the town and stay here. Then the second meeting that we heard a little bit more about the roads and got some more quotes. I think he mentioned that he wanted to chip seal Appaloosa and Square H, is that right? And then also he had quotes on 5 different roads for paving and fixing. So that I remember Frost, Dinkle, Venus. You're gonna have to help me out. I don't remember the other 2. Quail. And
what was the
McCall.
Okay. So those were the 5 that are kind of being thrown around for paving, and then the chip seal with those other 2. He brought quotes, like I said, and then we did hear from P&Z. So Tanya talked to us about needing a new vehicle, needing increasing attorney fees in anticipation of what could be up and coming with Campbell Ranch, increase in budget for lean and cleans, which is properties that the town really needs to clean up, and because of safety reasons and everything else. So she was asking to go from $25,000 to $50,000. She did ask that the work of the employees be recognized and appreciated with a raise. Signs, postage, that's the notes I have for P&Z. IT, we got to hear from Jesus, and he asked for a lot of equipment and things, the servers that are old, needing to be replaced, network for library and animal control, security for the courthouse, the transparency portal for the public that we already had budgeted, for the accounting system and ENCODE, and just a number of other things. He was also asking for a tech support analyst, so another employee position for IT. And then we heard also from Carla, and she talked about, possibly getting a grass area at Venus Park that would be $125,000, playground equipment that would be anywhere from $25,000 to $125,000, Wi-Fi expansion for $50,000, landscaping here at Town Hall for $12,000, dog park $200,000 over at Animal Shelter, the BMX park for $150,000, and an increase also for promotion and events of $60,000. Also requesting a project manager for Parks and Rec and a grants manager for the town. And we have not yet heard from wastewater treatment plant, specifically from any other areas of Parks and Rec, and it seems like there's one other.
Judge.
The judge, yeah, the municipal judge. So that's my executive summary. But if you guys have any thoughts on all of those or any of those things, feel free to come up and talk. Now is your time, since you're already here.
My name's Jay Anderson. On the back, you have a closed session, and it's talking about buying property, 234 acres on Bassett Road, and it was going up for approval tonight. My question is, who owns that property? And is the money going to someone? A friend, a relative, or is it going to an individual?
That would be an individual, and I don't know who owns that property right off the top of my
Well, I
head.
notice it belongs to a trust.
Don't know who that is.
Just a question, you're gonna pay $250,000 for this property. What's it gonna be used for?
We're going to discuss that a little bit later, and we'll let you
An
know.
open discussion?
Yes, it'll be a public discussion.
Any other comments on the budget?
Anyone else wish to comment on the budget? Any pet projects, roads, anything else that we should be taking a look at?
I'm Nicole Wood. Been listening to things for quite a while, and some of the things that were brought up before, in addition to roads, for the youth, I know that at one time they were talking about a swimming pool and different things, but I do think that that would be a good use of the funds to do something that would improve the community for the youth. My son's a teenager, and just listening to him with the interactions that he has with others, I think that that's a real drawback to this community to not have something here for them to do. In addition to the younger children, there just isn't a lot here, and if we want to do something, we have to go somewhere else. And other than going on a walk or a hike, but that's very minimal, and I think that we can do better here, and maybe we wouldn't need so many police officers if we had something for the youth to do.
Just real quick, this came up 2 or 3 years ago, that we don't have a functioning radar trailer that we can put out on different roads for traffic counts, for speed monitoring of what's happening. I think for the town to really get a grip of how many cars you have on a certain street, what the average speed is on a certain street, a portable radar trailer is a very economical piece of equipment that would give you a lot of good information of what's happening in the town, realistically. So I'm seriously, like you said, the other one was broken or something, so maybe it's time to get it replaced or fixed or something. They're not that
Mayor Pro
expensive.
Tem Council, so Mr. Orr, that is ordered and hopefully will be delivered within the next couple of weeks.
This was going to be under public comment, but it seems to fit right now. My name is Susan Simons, and I've lived in Edgewood since before it was a town, and I've attended council meetings off and on ever since it became a town. I'm also the chair of Friends of Estancia Valley Animals, and for over 17 years, our nonprofit has offered low-cost spay and neuter services for companion animals here in Edgewood. As at the last 2 of the sitting councilors know, we were a driving force for getting the bond passed to help build that animal welfare facility. Before everything and everyone shut down, there was a discussion about renovating the cattery at the facility. And as a nonprofit, we received a $1,000 donation to help with that renovation. Now that the town has reopened, and we have had inquiries from both the general public and past shelter volunteers as when the shelter will reopen, and now that the town is reopened, people want to know when the shelter is going to reopen at normal hours, and if and when the cattery renovation will happen. When the renovation begins and new cat cages are ordered, we will add our additional $1,000 to buy another set of cat cages with the donated money. We will not be giving the $1,000 to the town. It is perceived by the public, whether it's true or not, that the money is designated in the budget for the line item of the shelter is sometimes reallocated to the general fund and used for other projects. Our animal welfare facility was and is a showplace for a small New Mexico town, and I know because I sit on another statewide board. Friends of Estancia Valley Animals would like to continue the relationship with the Edgewood Animal Control Department and continue to help improve the quality of life for the citizens and the companion animals of Edgewood. And I did not hear any animal control or the facility mentioned in the budget that you were talking about.
My mistake. We did bring up the cages that desperately need to be replaced.
Yes, that was unfortunately, like so many other things in the past, I'm not going to say bait and switch, but we were told that the architect knew what he was doing. And
I heard it was particle board.
yeah, it's like your kitchen cabinets. Imagine your cat peeing in the kitchen cabinet for years. It's time for them to be changed. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Pete Newstead. I live here in Edgewood. In regards to specifically on the budget, what I would like to know from the council is how much money is allocated for the sewage treatment plant, and when is it going to be to EPA standards before the city of Edgewood gets fined by the EPA standard and is broke? Thank you.
Hello, councilors. My name is Sterling Donner. I am actually running for town commissioner in District 5. So I have a question. 5% raise for the employees of Edgewood last year. Okay. When was the last time there were performance reviews done on those employees? The town of Tucumcari laid off two employees last year through the COVID pandemic. it doesn't make a whole lot of sense of how we're able to not only keep all of these employees, but give them a 5% raise, which is about 3% higher than what most jobs that give raises do it in any given year. So, just want to field that. Food for thought.
Do we have anyone else that wishes to speak on budget?
My name is Ken Brennan again. As far as the budget goes, we're going to have an entirely new government come January 1st, and I would recommend the budget that we pass only cover between now and January 1st, and let the new governing body come up with a brand new budget on how the town should be run and start off with a clean slate, instead of passing off problems and issues to a new government that's coming in. Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, council, I think we move on then. Public comment. We have one person wishing to give public comment. We'll go on from there.
Yes, the town of Edgewood appears to be growing, and I see a lot of building going on all over town. Restaurants, though, we know it's because people are getting unemployment, but our restaurants and stuff in our town are having a difficulty serving us, serving the community, and they're having to close their doors a certain amount of days because they don't have enough help to serve the community. And I hope this will end when unemployment stops going out to people because they'd rather stay home and not go to work. But it's a serious situation, I think, for our town businesses' survival. And as our town is growing, and to answer Ms. Donna Sterling a little bit, as our town is growing, the needs are growing of the town. Our town's fortunate to have Walmart and Smith's and have revenue coming in that some smaller towns don't have. But I don't think we're looking ahead to how we're going to meet the needs, services of our community. And for those running for office, I'd be anxious to hear their ideas. We need to somehow get more business and more industry into our town, and our politics can be stopping that from happening. We're not going to be able to pave more roads. We can say pave roads all day, but if you don't have the revenue, I don't care who's in office, you can't pave roads. We have to get more revenue coming in here. But I also see a problem of housing. People who work in restaurants are often in their 20s. Not everybody, obviously, but you need younger people. You know, retired people aren't going to go work in a restaurant for you. We're not looking into some housing rental. There's no rental property out here. And seeking out people who might build fourplexes or something, so that our younger people don't move to Albuquerque to live and to work in their restaurants. They might work in our restaurants or other type of industries. So I think it's really easy to throw stones, but I'd like to really hear some solutions of how services are going to be met in Edgewood. Where's the money, you know, for swimming pools and all these things that people want, which are all great. I'd love to have one too. But they do cost a lot to run. We have to have more businesses. We have to have more industry in Edgewood, and we have to start making the decisions that will cause that to happen. Or you can talk about all these great things all day, but the money's not going to be there.
Thank you, Ms. Hupperts. Next, please state your name.
Keith Callison, live at 3 Camino Coyote. The road there, absolutely phenomenal. The company did a great job replacing that road. But now it's kind of turned into a drag strip. And my house is right there, and the bird watching cabin for the Wildlife West is kind of across the street. So there's a dip right there, and there's people just like moving through there, man. Me and my wife see it all the time. So if the sergeant can take a note of that, usually you guys set up on the frontage road, so you can look right down there, and you know it's a great place to sit, you know, with your radar and stuff. But that's not where they're speeding. They're like ripping through there, and everybody that pulls out there, because it's a blind spot, there's two hills, and they're either coming off the hill headed north at a high rate of speed, or they're coming up over there. And so if you pull out of our neighborhood, like I pull out there with a trailer or something, and there's a number of people that own trailers there. Man, I've had people slam on their brakes behind me that I did not even see. And they of course, they didn't see me either. But that's, you know, an easy place for them to park right next to the subdivision sign, to sit right behind it. You're gonna, you know, and it's not just cars. There's people that ride dirt bikes through there to go out to that. You know, there's a bunch of trails and stuff out there also where people dump all kinds of like trash that we're constantly finding. But anyway, the second issue that I didn't write down was the frontage road is controlled by the DOT. Then there's a small section of road that you guys pave that's owned by Edgewood, and then you know, as Horton runs into Dingle, and then it's the county's responsibility after that. So it's a weird looking road. My wife knows every person that takes care of that road. So she neglected to call the DOT person that's supposed to like cut the shoulder. Well, now there's a ton of salt cedar growing up, and a lot of it. And there's plenty of deer there because people are putting out water for the deer. And because of the drought, we got a ton of deer. So there's like deer that have been hit in the past, and there's a deer that comes that I see on my cameras that obviously was hit by a car. So that stuff needs to get cut. I know that's not Edgewood's responsibility, but you guys got to have, like Norton's got it. Is Norton still working?
No, Norton's retired.
Oh, okay, good for him. Whoever replaced him needs to have a hotline so they can coordinate. I know you guys get out there, and I don't have a problem with Edgewood's area because you guys have been out there with the Bobcat. But the DOT part, that's all like an alternate route for emergencies, and that's why it needed to be paved, and a number of other reasons. But it needs to get cut because those deer, they're going to be out in the middle of the road before anybody, even if they are only going 35 miles an hour. They're gonna get nailed because pretty soon that salt cedar is going to be too thick to cut down with a Bobcat. It needs to get handled here pretty quick. All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Karen Kaiser again. Just quickly, I'm really surprised to see when you get to the end of the agenda, item 7, calendar review, that there's nothing about the resolution that you need to create as a governing body. You heard from a whole bunch of people tonight. The room was literally full. Everyone saying, we want to vote for all 5 commissioners as Edgewood forms a new governing body in a new year. And we need a special meeting, and you need to come together, hopefully, and let us do what's our legal right and what hundreds of people now have expressed the desire. Just, it's not on the calendar. When's it going to happen? It needs to happen soon. We're midway through July. So many people have stepped up to say they want to serve this community. They have to declare in a little more than a month, and no one even knows how they're running. Speaking of the districts, we need a map as big as one of these walls. A lot of people in our community don't use the internet. They don't have a computer at home. They don't know what district they're in. And these things need to be happening now, not November 1st, before they're to vote on November 2nd. But please have a special meeting and vote and allow us to vote for our 5 commissioners. Thank you.
Okay, it's my turn. I'm Bryce Simons, and with all due respects and sincere apology to a man much greater than I have a dream. I dream that Commissioner Abrams and I dream that Commissioner Hawley will wake up from the apparent stupor that they've been belaboring under for the last 3.5 years because they disagree with what the public has chosen in the general mandates and the general election. Commissioner Abrams has chosen to farcically comply with the judge's orders to appoint a 5th commission member without any effort whatsoever of working with the council, without any effort of thinking about the best interest of the town, without any effort of trying to further the town of Edgewood's causes. Candidates that had absolutely 0 chance of success and didn't communicate with any of the other commissioners who was even on the list. That's not an ethical, fair, honest attempt to fulfill the oath that you promised at the beginning of this term. Commissioner Hawley, I almost had hope for you at the beginning after your election when you did give a negative vote on a blasting ordinance that really wasn't fleshed out and well thought out and didn't deserve to be passed. But unfortunately, you got scolded so severely behind the scenes that you never, ever veered from the path again. And since then, you've been acting like a bird dog with an electric collar that if you even stray outside the bounds, you're going to get severely shocked. This is not the kind of representation that this town needs. This is not in the best interest of the town of Edgewood. We need to be able to vote for all the commissioners at large. You guys are commissioners now. The new ones will be commissioners as well. We need, as voters, to be able to vote for the commissioners at large. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sterling Donner again. I just wanted to field Ms. Hubbard's statement about what some of the commissioner candidates are wanting to do to help kind of fix this town and some of the ideas. It would take all night and probably into next week coming up with those ideas. So what I'm proposing, and I think my fellow candidates will agree with this, is that we do an open forum and we allow the public to ask us questions on how we feel we could fix this amazing town that we live in. And then I just want to echo this as well, that we want the right to vote for all 5 commissioner candidates. We want the opportunity to have the people that we want representing us. So please, just listen to what we're saying, call that special meeting, and vote on it. Thank you.
Jeremy Toon. So here we are, back to our new normal. Us missing time with our kids because we have to sit here and babysit, really you two, and I guess some of you guys. Mayor Pro Tem, I haven't seen you since I was privileged to serve you papers. Miss Hawley, I missed that on you. I know you were there because I saw you guys exit to the other room. Juan, ouch. It's quite an audit there. It's obvious to all of us what's happening with our voting, why you're delaying. Fewer people voting in single district voting means you might have a prayer in keeping your seats. The people spoke to get rid of the mayor a year ago. Mayor Pro Tem, you've said several times tonight, you want to know what the public thinks. The public want at-large voting. And we want you guys gone. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Powers.
So I just have one more comment. Here's an idea on how to fix the roads. Don't use the $1 million for the bridge. Use it on the roads. Apply for money. I understand the capital outlay. All you have to do is apply from the legislature to get money for roads. And there wasn't even an application from this administration this year. That deadline is already passed. You don't get what you don't ask for. So if the focus is really on roads and fixing roads, you ought to ask for the money that every town asks for to fix their roads from the legislature. Thank you.
If there is no more public comment, we will move on. Callers. Caller 3?
I have no more comments, but I think another caller might, so I will defer.
Thank you. Caller 5. Mr. Seegers.
Yeah, this is Ray Seegers, and I have a comment on the comment that was made. You know, Martha Eden brought up a very strategic problem regarding our finances and the future. And I think you'd ought to take a very serious look at it. Our pension plans, you know, aren't making the money they're promised. They're certainly not being managed correctly. And you need to look at the liability you'll be facing. It'll be the biggest thing we ever face in a few years if it gets out of hand. The other thing, I'm a little horrified at the money we received, $50,000 for summer programs that nobody worked on until now. I was on the Parks and Recreation Committee, which was disbanded and doing nothing because the mayor got rid of it. And while I was on there, I noticed, I fought heavily against this bridge that we were given and the insanity of what we are spending to take this gift, it's an albatross, big old piece of steel, to make a footbridge over an arroyo. The attorney's fees, the engineering fees, especially the engineering fees, are outrageous. We're not building a highway bridge, but we were given one. I mean, it's like they gave us the Golden Gate Bridge, and we had to figure out what to do with it. That's what we're stuck with. I would get rid of that. I would cut it to pieces and make a nice little footbridge like it's going to be used for over Bachelor Draw and quit wasting the money. Just because the federal government granted us $400,000 for that project, if that project cost us $2 million to do, and we could build it on our own for $200,000, you know, wake up. That is something you ought to take a look at and quit wasting money on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seegers. And I see no other callers up there, so we will move on. Councilor Jaramillo.
Okay. First, I'd like to say once again, thank you to the public and all of the participation tonight. I know that I truly appreciate all of you taking your time away from other things you could be doing, family, work, relaxing, whatever it is that you would do otherwise. But it really encourages me to know that you care and that you really do want to see the best for Edgewood's future, and you're using your voice. And so I feel very happy about this evening that we were able to hear from so many of you in multiple different times. So thank you for being courageous and sticking with us through this meeting. Again, I really appreciate it. I did want to address the Beasley Mitchell CPA firm that was brought forward to us to be our new external auditor. And I have requested, because of the conflict of interest there with their litigation support services to the town, that essentially makes them not independent to perform the external audit. So Councilor Hawley reminded me about conflicts of interest, and that's definitely a conflict that needs to be addressed. So Mr. Torres is going to get from Ms. Nixon or someone at your firm the scope of their contract, and I think I've been requesting that for at least a month. So I know Juan said that he's waiting on you for the contract so we can make a decision on our auditor. the recommendation to the state auditor's office of who our next auditor will be is due. So it's of the utmost importance that we be able to look at their scope of services. In litigation support services, a CPA firm is considered to be an advocate for the town. And although they're not auditing per se the town's operations like a regular external auditor, our government auditing standards prohibit us because we're no longer independent if we're being an advocate for the client. So litigation support services, that's the way it is. And so I need to be able to see the scope of their contract with the town. Or if it's not with the town, I need to see the contract with Robles, Rail, and Anaya. When do you think you could get that to me?
Oh, I'm sorry, Counselor. This is not.
Oh, we have sound.
Sorry about that. Counselor Jaramillo, I apologize. I don't have an answer to that question for you, but I will certainly follow up with my firm and get an answer for you as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you so much. It is time sensitive, like I said, because the state auditor's office requires that we contract with our new auditor this time of year, and if there is truly a conflict in litigation support, then we would have to most likely go out to RFP or get quotes again. So that is important. And then secondly, as we've heard tonight on the issue of voter rights, I will request again that we have a special meeting to pass a resolution to do the will of the people. And I did want to say I saw the letter that went out, was it Monday or Tuesday? Monday, I think, from you, Ms. Nixon, to Secretary of State's office, right? And again, there was no vote of council to do that. You do not represent the entire governing body in this matter. We would rather, make that decision here locally. It's not something, in fact, we've been instructed to make that decision here locally. So it's something well within our power to do as counselors here in response to the public and all of the emails, phone calls, everyone taking time out of their schedule to be here tonight. I think that we really need to call a special meeting and just get that resolution passed so that people can vote for all 5 commissioners. Now, I did take a look at the Constitution section that you had mentioned at the last meeting that was a surprise. That actually relates to charters or those with home rule. So I was going to ask you why you quoted that particular section.
And Councilors, Mayor Pro Tem, just to clarify, the letter that Councilor Jaramillo is referring to was a letter to the county clerk for the county of Santa Fe in response to a question that she posed about the status of the voting. The only information provided was what I had, which is there is no decision about whether it will be at-large voting or single-member district voting based on the resolutions as written and passed at this time. The reason that it's quoted, the constitutional provision is quoted, which is Article 10, Section 6, is because it's not clear based on the face of the Constitution itself that it applies only to the charter jurisdictions. It's certainly an open question. It's certainly separated and distinct from the charter provisions of that article. So it's a question of whether or not it applies. And that question has been posed and unanswered still.
Okay. When I read it, it seemed pretty clear that the section heading stated charter in there, that it applied to municipalities with charters. And that is not our case. And so in the letter to the clerk, you did end the letter by saying, let this serve as notice that the town has districted. Do you think she'll misunderstand that you meant single-member districts?
I don't know. I can't answer for her.
because I think that it really wasn't clear. It seemed like you were trying to convince her that we had already districted into single-member districts. And really, I didn't see a question about that constitutional provision. So I believe that clarification is needed to give to her. Coming from an attorney, she may just, think that constitutional provision does apply to us, when in all actuality, it doesn't look like it does to me. And I didn't see a question in there anywhere about does this apply to Edgewood or not. And really the assumption was made to her that we had already districted. Well, we did the 5 commissioner districts, but we can still vote for all 5 commissioners. So that's the part that was really missing from your letters. So again, if you're not going to, be complete in your communications, I will have to supplement with information to her.
Is that all you have, Councilor Abraham?
It is.
Councilor
Thank
Hermio?
you.
Councilor Abraham.
I'm going to once again ask for a budget meeting to be held on a Saturday so that more citizens can attend. I would like before that meeting for information to be provided as to what the recommendations are, what is being asked for, how much money is available, how much is required to go to the wastewater treatment plant. I also asked that the wastewater treatment plant department head be available for questions, as we are still waiting for information on our permit that is very overdue to allow us to continue operating that plant. I would like to agree with Councilor Jaramillo that the understanding of the statute is that voting resolution needs to come from this governing body, and I do believe it needs to reflect the will of the people, not an attorney who is representing 2 members of this governing body and not the other 2. I will once again ask for an RFP for new legal services because I have lost all confidence in the attorney advice that we are receiving at this time. I feel it's conflicted and does not represent the people of Edgewood or myself. Thank you. That's all I have.
Councilor Hawley.
In light of this lengthy meeting, I'll just make one announcement. Most of you probably know I am on the board for First Choice Community Health, and I wanted to announce that one of our community members, a student at Moriarty High School by the name of Evelyn Armendariz, was awarded $1,500 in scholarship money from First Choice. She plans to be an optometrist, so the scholarship should help her a little bit with her schooling. Congratulations to Evelyn.
And I'm going to be really brief because I would like to talk a whole lot more after our closed session with regard to economic development in the town of Edgewood. So I'll move on to matters from the clerk treasurer.
Mayor, Council, so really quick, we'd just like to address the gentleman who had the issue with Frontage Road. We have had the issue with Frontage Road for a while. I know I have personally called DOT maintenance multiple times, the police chief, the road department supervisor. I believe Carla has. There's been multiple people from the public who have also called. And when they call us, we'll also say, can you please call this number and let them know as well. And it's getting pretty bad. I know there's certain parts when you're trying to pull out, it's kind of hard. It creates blind spots, but also just to have them maintain frontage road both sides. There's some pretty good potholes in there.
It's getting bad.
You end up having to swerve or drive into the other lane, where hopefully the traffic's coming in, not kind of have to stop because those are some pretty good potholes. So we are after the NMDOT maintenance to get those Hopefully they'll come soon. The last time we spoke to maintenance, they said that we are scheduled. What that means, I don't know, but we will continue to call them to have that, have both frontage roads taken care of. And that's all I have for now.
Thank you. Matters from the town attorney.
Mayor Pro Tem, councilors, thank you. I will also keep it brief. I just want to remind the public, I know the councilors are aware of this, but so everyone is on the same page, remind the public that the Open Meetings Act in the state of New Mexico, specifically NMSA 1978 Section 10-15-2A, requires that all public meetings, which is a quorum of this body, be subject to the terms of the Open Meetings Act, which include notice, agenda, and access requirements. Under the interpretation of that provision offered by the Office of the Attorney General for the state of New Mexico, that includes all telephone discussions, email correspondence, not just in-person meetings. So I just want to make sure that everyone is aware and abiding by the Open Meetings Act as it relates to this body specifically. Thank you.
I have a question. Does that go for the attorney too?
If there's no discussion about public business or action related to the town, I can communicate with the governing body as my client.
Moving on, we have a closed session as pursuant to NMSA 1978-1015-1H8. The following will be discussed in closed session: purchase, acquisition, or disposal of real property or water rights, specifically a property located at 120 Bassett Road, Edgewood, New Mexico. Also, in closed session, as pursuant to NMSA 1978-1015-1H7, the following will be discussed in closed session: pending litigation in which the public body is or may become a participant, specifically a lien placed on 99 Mosley Road. I will ask for a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion to go into closed session to discuss both of these items.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Discussion? Go ahead.
I just need to comment here that I disagree with the procedure, again, putting the cart before the horse, as this administration tends to do on EPCOR and a number of other things, even the sale of Old Town Hall. Here we have tonight, for the first time on an agenda, closed session discussion, and thankfully it is on the agenda, but this purchase, possible purchase, right? But we haven't even discussed this in theory to the public. How do we know that this is something the public wants to do? The Open Meetings Act exceptions for purchases such as this, for real property purchases, acquisition, relates mainly to negotiation of deals. And so we don't even know if this is something the public wants. Right?
Counselor,
and so at this,
if I could,
we're in discussion.
I know, I was just having a little discussion, if I could.
Okay, go ahead. Jump in.
We don't even know if the council is interested. So this
We
is
know
to
what it
discuss this. That's exactly what this is. This is to inform the council, and then we will come back and inform the public. If we decide to do it, yay, and if we decide not to do it, nay.
But we have
Real
to,
easy.
We have to hear from the public first. Normally, how these things are determined is you come to the public and you say, public, what do you think about residential sewer? And then the public will tell us what they think about it. And then, right? So it's the same thing with this. I feel like, there's this, we just haven't heard from what they want, and actually there's a closed session and then there's an action item. But how can I take action on this without hearing from you all first?
Well, first we have to talk about it.
I think we table this particular item and go into closed session for item B. We really need to hear from the public first and even know what this is about. Closed session is for negotiating.
Can you disclose why we're
Yeah,
discussing this?
I'm gonna put the cart before the horse. In order to develop this community, we need industry here very, very badly. We've heard that tonight. I've heard it. I've seen it for years. We don't have the tax revenue to do what the community really wants. And we never will unless we get something here that can develop an economy that can afford us the revenues to do what we need to do. Period. And in order to do that, I have been working with not only the state legislature, with Torrance County, with Santa Fe County, with the city of Moriarty, but also with the federal delegation to put an exit ramp, a new exit ramp on I-40 at Bassett Road.
Of course, sorry.
And yeah, well, it's named Bassett Road, but I don't care. The property is next to our current sewer plant, so there is water, the effluent water that is reuse water that could be used for various things. And industry loves to have water in a dry state. There are a few other things that are real advantageous out there. There's not really any residents at all out there at present. The land is currently, if you look at the zoning there, that big red rectangle in the bottom right-hand corner, that big red rectangle is what we're talking about. Right now, the city of Moriarty has an industrial park because they bought a piece of property and they leased it to Google, who built them a 400,000 square foot building, which is now fully leased, by the way, with a whole bunch of new businesses and a whole bunch of jobs. I really want to see those kinds of jobs and that kind of business here in our town. That's what I'm trying to do. So now you know.
I think the concern is that you are trying to do this, not
Well,
us.
well,
Not us.
That's fine.
That is the problem.
I'm just putting it.
It's my turn to talk.
Fine.
The community is tired of being surprised by things. We used to decide things as a governing body. And now we just get these things told and, we need to do this tonight and we have to do this and this is what's been decided and this is what's being brought forward. And if you want to bring something forward, well, it's not going to be allowed. If the community wants to bring something forward, well, we don't want to hear from them. So I think that is the problem. It's the whole idea that we are not working together as a governing body anymore. And part of that is because you tend to just surprise us with things. I am having some discussion and it's my turn to talk. I have the floor. I am talking about a problem that needs to be addressed. I know, you're going to gavel me because you have the gavel.
I do.
I know, and you are in charge of everything.
No, I'm not.
So when did we become a democracy of one?
Counselor, you're being very disingenuous. You're being very disingenuous. I think if Ralph Hill were here, he would agree with me because you got the emails too. And that's part of.
What
and that
emails?
What emails? Okay. That's
What
fine.
emails?
That's
I don't
fine.
know what you're talking
What is the council's pleasure? Do you want to do this or do you not?
No. No.
Okay. That's fine. What do you want to do?
So, Mayor Pro Tem, I guess, this is all brand new. It's the public is hearing about an industrial park that Edgewood wants to buy land.
I've been talking about this for years.
Well, we never heard. So.
That's fine.
I mean, I
Been talking about it
understand.
for years.
There's one thing I can say that I appreciate about what you just did, and that's that you gave the vision. Thank you for that, right? I really appreciate
The
that.
vision's
That's-
been there for years. I've been talking about this for years. There are people in the community who I've talked to about this for years.
I have heard in the past about the exit ramp, and that actually came from the state level discussions where DOT, I think, was trying to plan an exit ramp a
Actually,
long time
the
ago.
plan was made in 1999, and none of the projects on I-40 have come to any fruition in that period of time till now. None of them. So I'm trying to get our federal delegation to put that ramp in as part of this 30-year plan that now is 20 years in, that has not been acted on whatsoever.
Why don't the whole council know this?
And so,
The whole council does know that. I've been talking about this for quite some time. In fact, I think you guys have been around long enough that you've seen what's happened with our zoning ordinances and the changes to the zoning ordinance to bring in a light industry area, and the changes to zoning that have been made to make those red areas on our map.
And why wasn't the extension to the sewer plant taken out there?
What extension?
Extension on the sewer pipe?
What extension?
About a year ago, year and a half ago, that went right over on the other side of, the
There's-
property
there's-
on the other side of Walmart.
There's nothing there currently on that piece of land, that red spot there. There's nothing there,
Yeah, but why didn't you?
except the sewer plant is just north of it.
Why did we spend all that money, all that
Well-
tax dollars on putting a pipe on the private property?
We're not spending that money for infrastructure.
so
Okay, whatever,
back
cool.
to this concept of industrial park and light industrial, and a project that may be worthwhile for economic development and an exit ramp and all of that. I think that that's where we just need to have maybe a public hearing and say, just like you're doing now, but in a fuller measure, right? Here's what we're thinking, here's the opportunities, here's what's been done already by the feds, here's what Moriarty has done, all of those different things, bring it out so that the public can give us feedback. But to just spring it is really not good. It needs to be driven from the public approving and wanting this before we go and do this and spend money on this. And I just want to, this is always a hard thing because we are individual representatives of the town. We are council members. But when I hear you say that you're going to the state legislature, you're going to Moriarty, you're going to our federal delegation, but yet we didn't authorize you to represent the town to do all of those things. So as an individual council member, fine. But I hope they don't think that this is something the town has already approved, because it's never come for a vote.
That's why it's coming to you now.
Mayor Pro Tem, we've all been to the municipal league.
That it's closed session.
We've been to,
That doesn't come to us.
Councils, let's stop, audience, please. Let's have the discussion here. Thank you. Go ahead, Council.
we've all been to the municipal league training. We've learned there are exceptions to the Open Meetings Act, one of them being the purchase, acquisition, or disposal of real property or water rights. That's what we've got on the agenda tonight. And that gives us an opportunity to talk about it and see if there's any consensus of us going forward. We don't take any actions until we come before the public body and make our votes. But the reason we are allowed this exception is so that we can perhaps, if we decide this is something worth going for, have an opportunity to make an offer before somebody's aware that, oh, the town's going after it. And I think that's happened to us in the past. We've lost out on some property because the price goes up.
People, please.
I I do know from, just reading Open Meetings Act and talking to the AG's office and other instances, that the general discussion cannot be in closed session. It's for negotiations, so that, things like pricing and all of
Well,
that.
that's what we were going to talk about, but, we can't do that.
Well,
now.
if it's negotiations,
we need to talk about real property, okay? We need to talk about real property. Whether we want to do it or not, it's got to come back in front of the public, period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. That's not in question. But discussing what's going on and what could possibly be, both financially and acquisition-wise, we do need to discuss in closed session. And if you don't want to discuss it, then you can not go into closed session for that. I don't care. Either way, it's not going to hurt my feelings one way or the other. But, it is a future possibility for the town's improvement. So it's up to you, council. What's your wish?
my wish is that we present the vision to the public in an open, transparent way, hear from them before we proceed on any action.
Okay.
You can still go into closed session, and I believe you've got a motion for that, don't you?
We do have a motion for closed session.
Did somebody second?
I second.
Did we have a second? I think
No, I seconded.
I think you seconded, Councilor Abraham.
No, she made the motion.
Oh, Councilor Abraham made the motion and Councilor Holly seconded.
I would like to hear what the project is. I think we need to have a full understanding of what your thought process is. And that possibly, if we all know about it, and we can possibly get the public behind it, if it's a good project. I think it's the springing it on everybody that causes people to push back. So I am interested in hearing what the project is, and going into closed session for discussion, and then come out and discuss with the public what we discussed in there.
I think I pretty succinctly outlined what the vision is. We need the property as an incentive for future development for light industry in our community to build a reasonable job base and a better tax base.
How about I call for the vote?
You may call for the vote. Councilor Jaramillo.
Aye.
Councilor Holly.
Aye.
Councilor Abraham.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. We are in closed session.
And the recording? I guess.
You okay?
I already turned it
Hello, hello.
That works.
Council, I'll entertain a motion to come into open session.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion to come back into open session.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to come back into open session. I would like to ensure that in closed session no decisions were made and that we will be discussing the matters here afterwards.
No conflicts.
And there's no conflicts.
I so affirm.
And no decisions were made. I so affirm.
I so affirm.
I as well. We have a motion and a second. Councilor Harvio, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
Councilor Holly?
Aye. Excuse me.
And I vote aye as well. We are now in open session. 2 action items. First is an action authorizing me to purchase lands located at 120 Bassett Road. How would you like to proceed, Council?
Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion that we table this to the next meeting so that we have the opportunity to present to the public the ideas of what the land could be used for and why it would be beneficial for us to purchase it.
Do I hear a second?
I will second.
We have a motion and a second to table the action item to purchase lands at 120 Bassett Road. Council, how do you vote? Councilor Holly?
Aye.
Councilor Armio?
Aye.
And Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Item B, the action authorizing the town attorney to proceed to foreclose on the lien placed on 99 Mosley Road. Council, I entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'll make a motion to proceed with the foreclosure of the lien placed on 99 Mosley Road.
Do I hear a second? I'll second. Any discussion?
I would like to table this. We have a lien on it already, and I just feel like maybe foreclosing this, we have so much to do in the next 6 months to get ready for the new administration, that I don't think this is a priority for us right now.
Okay, Councilor, I think, getting this off the next administration's table would probably be a beneficial thing for them. I know that the new governing organization and all of that goes along with it is going to be quite consuming. And this is just one other thing that they would have to deal with that we can deal with now. But if you wish to table it, we certainly can. Do I hear a second?
So we had a motion and second, and now to table. Does that? Okay. Yeah, I'll second.
You'll second to table? Do we have any further discussion?
My opinion is the same as yours, Mayor Pro Tem. We've already started action on this property. We've spent money to clean it up. I think the new governing body would appreciate not having this carry over for them to deal with.
Well, and we've also been after the owner of this piece of property for well over a year and have had no communication.
Right, but there's currently a lien on it, and the new governing body may not want to have this land. They might, but they might not. We still have a lien in place for at least 2.5 more years, and so I don't see that it's an urgent item to be dealt with at this point. I think we let the lien stand.
Okay, well, any further discussion? The first vote then would be to table this item, which would negate the motion to approve it. So the first vote is to table. Councilor Harmia, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Counselor Holly?
Nay.
And Counselor Abraham?
Aye.
I vote nay. The motion to table dies for lack of a majority. The second is now up, which is to move ahead. How do you vote, Counselor Jaramillo?
Nay.
And Counselor Abraham?
Nay.
Counselor Holly?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well, so we do nothing. The next item on the agenda is calendar review. We have another budget workshop at 9 a.m., July 20th. I would like to discuss the next regular council meeting because I'm worried that we may not have a quorum, and I would kind of like to reschedule. July 28th, I will not be here.
You know what? I was on vacation this whole past week. We had 2 budget workshops and this meeting. And so I would have liked to have been able to reschedule too, but I wasn't asked.
Well, you didn't inform me.
Because if I do, you sneak things in.
Well, that's an accusation.
It is.
And so,
What are you thinking for the date?
well, I mean, that is the last week of July. We could certainly have a council meeting on a Friday.
What date?
That would be Friday the 30th.
I'm thinking that we should move up that meeting.
Yeah.
So that we can have the purpose of passing the resolution for the public being able to vote for all 5 commissioners, and we could get that done too.
When are you thinking?
When are you leaving?
I will not be leaving. I have an event, a family event on the 28th that I will not miss.
What about the 21st?
The 21st is a Saturday. We could have a Saturday meeting if you wish. Oh, wait, no, that's August. The 21st is
Next week?
Oh, that would work.
Is next week.
Mayor, Council, if I may, keep in mind you're only giving me 2 days to get an agenda together, and I don't know what you want on it. So unless you've got a lot of ideas and material to put on something in that short of time.
Well, I really wanted to get the resolution passed for the voter rights. So next Wednesday would be great.
Are you available the 23rd? Or the 22nd?
22nd.
The 22nd is a Thursday.
I'm open in the day, but not, well, let's see. I could probably do 6:30. I could make that work.
Or the 23rd? No, yes? The 23rd?
I could do the 23rd
Friday the 23rd?
in the evening.
Yes.
I could make that work.
I can make that work too.
Yeah, that works for me.
You guys want to do Friday
Okay,
night?
so the next regular council meeting, we are rescheduling then for Friday, July 23rd at 6:30 p.m. Next on calendar review, July 10th is movie night. That's already passed. Why is that here, guys? Are we saying, are the trolls coming back? July 31st is the Venus Park Party at the park. I would encourage everyone to go. There are flyers. You'll see the flyers out. If anybody needs flyers, please come and ask, and we will be more than happy to supply a few or mini. August 11th is a public hearing for the Town of Edgewood Rural Broadband Project, and I would encourage people to attend that as well. We are at the end of our agenda. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Glad to see everyone.
Now you have to